AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
This episode is brought to you by Paranormal Playback, a new podcast where hosts Shar, Mel and Laura recap the spooky and entertaining world of paranormal reality TV. Each week they take a fresh look at popular shows like Ghost Adventures and Kindred Spirits, blending humour with insight as they pull apart what's happening on screen. The three of them are a mix of believers and skeptics, which makes for really fun conversations, sometimes leaning into mystery, other times asking the questions viewers might be thinking themselves. With their background in creative production, they know how these shows are put together, so they're great at pointing out the moments that feel real versus the ones that might be more for the cameras. And their segment, This Old Haunt, digs into the true crime side of paranormal investigations, separating fact from fiction. With Halloween coming up, it's the perfect time to add something spooky, funny and a little addictive to your playlist. For even more spooky, ghostly, paranormal content with a humorous spin, go check out Paranormal Playback. Hello listeners and welcome back to another episode of Scary. If you're new here, my name's Will and each week I narrate your real life paranormal encounters as well as some famous cases along the way. Before we get into this week's episode, we need to say a special thank you to our new Patreon subscribers who are Janet Sproul and Levi Iva Bauhau. I have a feeling I completely butchered that surname, but thank you so much for signing up to the show's Patreon, and if this is something you're interested in, you can find a link in this episode's show notes where you can gain access to ad-free main episodes as well as exclusive scary episodes. But now, let's get into today's episode. Harris County, Georgia doesn't look like a place where you'd expect anything strange. It's a stretch of rolling pine woods and farmland just north of the fall line, where the Piedmont meets the coastal plain. In the late 1980s, it was quiet country. 2-lane roads, scattered brick ranch houses, feed stores, churches with tin roofs, and longleaf pines. The county seat, Hamilton, was tiny. The larger city of Columbus sat about 20 minutes south. Families here knew one another by name. Children played in big backyards while their parents gardened or sat on porches with iced tea. In February 1989, Andy and Lisa Wyrick moved into a single-storey home in Ellerslie, one of Harris County's small communities. Their place sat on a wooded lot along a quiet road with only a few neighbours. It was the sort of house where you could hear a car coming from a long way off, and where night fell dark because there were no city lights. Andy worked locally and Lisa stayed home with their 3-year-old daughter, Heidi. Heidi was an outgoing, playful toddler, small enough to disappear behind a stack of moving boxes, but old enough to wander the yard while Lisa unpacked. And she'd spend some of her time outside in the mild Georgia winter. Bare trees, crisp air, a hint of pine resin. One afternoon, not long after they settled in, Lisa was in the kitchen when she noticed Heidi near the front door talking. Through the screen, she could see her little girl looking just past the porch, speaking with the easy familiarity of a child who's found a friend. At first, Lisa assumed it was a make-believe, Toddlers often invent playmates. But when Heidi came back inside, she casually described the man she'd just met. He was an older man with white hair, she said. He wore a t-shirt that had blood on it, and one of his hands was bandaged. And the bandage too was bloody. His name, she told her mother, was Con. Lisa froze. This wasn't a description of an imaginary tea party friend. So she hurried Heidi back inside, shut and locked the door, and suddenly, aware of how isolated their house really was, grabbed the kitchen's largest butcher knife. She phoned Andy at work and told him to come home now. When he arrived, the two of them searched the yard and the roadside for anyone matching the description. No footprints, no tyre tracks, no wandering neighbour. Nothing but pines and a cold breeze across the clay soil. That was Heidi's very first meeting with Con. Lisa didn't want to frighten Heidi, but the description wouldn't leave her mind. White hair, blood on the shirt, a bandaged hand. They were only a few days into this new life on this quiet road. Houses were far apart. A stranger could have walked up unseen through the woods. Andy's return from work was quick and tense. He and Lisa moved through the yard together, checking around the porch, the edge of the trees, the gravel drive. They scanned the road in both directions. They looked for tyre ruts or footprints in the red clay. Nothing. With no one found, the couple locked the doors and tried to reassure themselves. Maybe Heidi misunderstood. Maybe she'd seen a trick of light through the screen door. Maybe she'd seen something on the TV that she shouldn't have. But Lisa couldn't let it go. Over the next few days, she began asking neighbours and relatives if anyone knew a man called Con. The name was all she had. The rest, the blood, the bandage, she kept to herself, unsure of how to explain without sounding alarmed. The answers came back blank. No one on this quiet stretch of Ellerslie knew a Con. The Wyricks' nearest relative, Lisa's sister, had just purchased the house next door, but she didn't know the previous owners well either. For now, Lisa tucked the worry away, but kept a close eye on Heidi whenever she stepped outside alone. Spring warmed the pines around Ellerslie. Heidi was now a little older, still preschool age but talking in full sentences, playing confidently in the yard that stretched behind the Wyrick home. One afternoon, Lisa noticed her daughter moving as though someone stood beside her. Heidi would pause, look up, and answer unheard questions. Lisa watched as Heidi lifted her small hand and walked forward, fingers curled as if holding another's. No one was there. When Lisa asked, Heidi answered matter-of-factly. The man's name was Mr. Gordy. He was kind, she said. Older, neatly dressed, a suit, shiny shoes. He liked to push her on the swing. Lisa assumed this was the natural next step of a child with an active imagination. But the name stuck in her mind, Mr. Gordy. It wasn't a nickname you'd hear much anymore. Not long after, while chatting with her sister, who had bought the house next door, Lisa mentioned the name in passing. And her sister paused. She had seen that name before. When she had signed the purchase papers for her house, the old property deed listed a former owner, James S. Gordy. And she also remembered the realtor saying James had been dead since 1974. Lisa's unease deepened. She asked a long-time neighbour, Catherine Ledford, if she knew anything about the name. Catherine did. She remembered Mr. Gordy well. A retired real estate man from Columbus, once a Sunday school superintendent. An elderly gentleman with grey hair who always wore a suit and tie and had polished black shoes. Exactly the man Heidi described. Lisa had never told her daughter that name, and Heidi was far too young to know anything about house deeds or past owners. Yet here she was, seemingly playing or talking to a man who had been gone for more than a decade before she was born. The discovery frightened Lisa more than the first visit from Con, and this didn't seem to be just child make-believe. Heidi seemed to have named a dead man. After the shock of learning that Mr. Gordy was real, Lisa couldn't shake the first man Heidi had seen, the one with the bandaged, bloody hand. She confided her worry to their neighbour, Catherine Ledford. Catherine, curious and wanting to help, brought over a stack of old family photographs one afternoon. Many of Catherine's relatives had lived in this part of Harris County for generations. If Heidi really was seeing somebody from the past, his face might be here. Lisa sat with Heidi and Catherine on the living room floor. They spread the photos out. Sun-faded portraits, farm snapshots. Heidi flipped through them slowly, quiet and serious, in a way small children rarely are. Then she stopped. Her little hand pressed against a small, worn picture near the bottom of the stack. That's him. That's Con. Catherine leaned over and felt the hair raise on her arms. The man in the photo was her uncle, Lon Batchelor. Everyone in the family called him Lon, though to a child the name could have sounded like Con. Bear in mind, Heidi is a toddler. Lon had lost a hand years earlier, right there in Ellerslie. In the photograph, his arm was wrapped in bandages, a small but striking detail Heidi had already described. Lon had died back in 1957, around 30 years before Heidi was born. Lisa's stomach dropped. Her daughter had never met Catherine before this day, never seen these pictures, and couldn't have known any details about a man who died decades earlier. Yet she had described him perfectly the first time she saw him. Lisa later said, "When I learned his name wasn't Con, it was Lon, it scared me to death, because I knew then Heidi was really seeing something." For the Wyricks, the last comfortable explanation, childhood fantasy, coincidence, was gone. Their preschooler had twice named and recognised the dead. For several years, life in the Wyrick house settled into an odd but peaceful rhythm. Heidi still played with Mr. Gordy in the yard. Sometimes she would mention seeing Lon, though less often. Neither presence frightened her. In Lisa's words, Heidi had never been scared of anything. Then in 1993, the pattern broke. Lisa was now expecting the couple's second child. Heidi was about 8 years old now, old enough to explain what she saw in full sentences. One evening she came running down the hallway, white-faced and shaking. Something new had appeared. Lisa described it simply. A dark man-shaped figure, featureless, black from head to toe, like a cut-out shadow. No face, no voice, no clothes. Just a presence. The sight of it sent her into hysterics. And it didn't stop there. After that night, the shadow figure returned again and again, silent, formless, appearing at the edge of her room or waiting in the hallway. Lisa later said she'd never been scared of anything, but when she saw that dark figure, she was hysterical. The house seemed to change after that. Lisa and Andy debated moving, but worried it wouldn't help. Whatever gift Heidi had seemed tied to her, not to an address. Lisa was convinced that wherever they went, Heidi was going to see people from the past. So they stayed, hoping the visits might fade. But the shadow did not fade. It remained, a silent, faceless presence that carried a weight none of them could explain. And just as the family was preparing to welcome a new baby, the haunting would soon cross a line that it never had before. It would touch them. February 3rd, 1994. Lisa gives birth to the Wyrick's second daughter, Jordan. 2 weeks later, life with a newborn is still sleepless and tender. One morning, Lisa walked into Heidi's room to wake her for school and stopped dead in her tracks. Across Heidi's face were deep red scratches, 3 long welts that hadn't been there the night before. There's no cat in the house, no broken frame or toy with sharp edges near the bed. Heidi can't explain how they happened. She woke up sore and frightened. Andy tried to downplay it, maybe she scratched herself in her sleep. But 2 nights later, Andy himself is jolted awake by a stabbing pain along his side. When he pulls up his shirt, there are 3 bloody claw-like gashes, fresh and stinging. The following night it happens again. This time 3 slashes running down his back. And the 3rd night, 3 more rip across his chest. Each time the wounds appear overnight, each set in the same parallel pattern, 3 long marks. Andy, who had always been a skeptic, now has no easy answer. Lisa is terrified. Whatever is in their house is no longer just showing itself to Heidi, it's making contact. This is the point where the Wyricks realise they can't handle the haunting alone. The unseen presence is physical now, and they fear for both of their children. They reach out for help and find a scientist willing to step inside the mystery. They reached a man who investigated strange cases with a scientist's caution, Dr. William G. Roll, a parapsychologist long associated with the University of West Georgia and known for approaching hauntings as a researcher rather than a storyteller. Roll arrived in 1994. He spoke first with Lisa and Andy, and then with Heidi herself. His manner was quiet and professional, more like a child psychologist than a ghost hunter. He wanted to know what Heidi saw, how often, and what she felt when those figures appeared. Because Heidi had twice named people unknown to her parents, Roll set up a simple recognition test. He gathered old photographs of elderly men from local families, some completely unconnected, one of them the late James S. Gordy. Heidi was asked without prompting to look at each picture and tell him if she recognised anyone. She pointed to Gordy immediately. It was the same way she had earlier picked Lon from Catherine Ledford's family album. Roll noted that Heidi gave names and physical descriptions she could not have obtained in any ordinary way. To him, the results suggested their experiences were genuine, at the very least not explainable by normal childhood fantasy or chance guessing. He didn't stop there. Roll measured the house itself. He checked air ionization levels, electromagnetic fields, and even the geology beneath. He found an unusually high concentration of positively charged ions in Heidi's room, and noted the house lay near a fault line, conditions sometimes linked in parapsychology to unusual perceptions or anxiety. But these findings, he admitted, could not account for a child naming 2 long-dead neighbours and picking them from photos she'd never seen. But what of the dark shadow? Rather than talk of demons, Lean rolled towards a psychic sensitivity hypothesis. Heidi, he thought, might be able to perceive what he called place memory, impressions or images left behind by people who once lived there. That wouldn't make the dark figure safe, but it suggested a human rather than supernatural evil at work. For Lisa and Andy, it was at least an informed response, somebody treating their daughter's story seriously, yet scientifically. but Roll could not drive the presence away, and he didn't claim to know why one child could see what others could not. The family was still left with a haunting, only now it had been tested and remained unexplained. Dr. Roll's visit gave the Wyricks understanding but not relief. The house stayed the same place, a place where Mr. Gordy's gentle presence slowly faded, where Lon was rarely seen anymore, and where the dark, faceless figure still came and went. Lisa turned first to the church she'd grown up in. The family's pastor visited, prayed over Heidi and blessed the rooms, asking for protection. And for a while the house felt calmer, but the peace didn't last. Wanting more answers, Lisa also consulted 2 psychics. One, a medium later known as Amy Allen, said she felt only human spirits in the home. Some kind, some angry, but nothing demonic. Another psychic connected to Lisa's church felt the opposite, insisting that a dark, possibly demonic force was present and feeding on fear. Despite prayers, blessings and advice, the activity never fully stopped. Heidi continued to see spirits as she grew, but she changed. The child who once screamed at the shadow learned to stand her ground. She told interviewers later that she could feel when a presence was good or bad. If I sense evil, I literally get sick to my stomach. By refusing to panic, she found the dark figure lost some of its power. The Wyricks did not move. They built routines, raised their daughters, and tried to live normally around the unexplained. Lisa has said that as a parent, the hardest part was knowing she could lock doors against people, but not against what Heidi was seeing. Over time, Mr. Gordy stopped appearing. Heidi reached her teens and the friendly man in the suit was gone. The shadow still surfaced occasionally, but with far less force once Heidi had no longer reacted in fear. By the early 2000s, Heidi was a young adult, working and living near Columbus. In a 2008 interview with local TV station WTVM, she admitted she still sometimes saw things others couldn't, but had learned to keep it private. You just get used to seeing things after a while, she said. She also told the reporter she wished she'd had an ordinary childhood, but had accepted that her life would always hold some mystery. The haunting had not been solved, but it no longer ruled the house or her. The identity of the dark figure, and why Heidi alone saw it, remains unknown. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have your own paranormal experience that you'd like me to narrate on the show, you can send it to scaryaparanormalpodcast@gmail.com and it just might get made into a future episode. There'll be a brand new Patreon exclusive episode out this weekend, so stay tuned for that. And finally, as you may or may not have heard, the podcast is a finalist in 2 categories in the 2025 Signal Awards. And those categories are Best Paranormal or Horror and Driveway Moment Podcast. And what you're voting for is for the podcast to win a Listener Choice Award in each category. Thank you so much to everybody who has voted already, and if you want to vote for the podcast, you can find the link in the episode show notes. Thank you for listening, and join me next time for another episode of Scary.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Dibrig tú go díon ó chánig tú go díon chathair seo, fuair his neart taithí agus d'urbar de chud scileanna. I ngácháte éigean tú, fecinn tú rud éige na chabhraigh tú a thógáil, ach inis tá tú ag féchant ar an todhchaí, agus beidir go bhfuil tú ag smaoineamh ar an áit as a dagan tú. In éireann, tastaíonn pleanálathe, siúnéirí, ploméirí, díanadóirí, inaltóirí, altíirí, banistóirí láithreáin agus níos mó hain. Tastaíonn tú hain. le do chuid skillne agus taithí go léir chun cabhrúlinn na mílte tithe a thógáil. Tá an domhan tóga agat, a níos tar arás agus tógan teach a thóg tú. Tuile eolais ag gov.ie/Building Ireland. Teachtareacht ó rialtas na hÉireann.
Most security systems react after a break-in begins. That's too late. Simply Safe is different. It's proactive. ActiveGuard Outdoor Protection uses AI-powered cameras to spot suspicious activity before criminals get inside. Live monitoring agents can see, speak to, and scare off intruders in real time, quickly calling police if needed. To get 50% off your new system, go to simplysafe.com/podcast. That's simplysafe.com/podcast for 50% off. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but Mint's premium wireless is $15 a month. But I'd like to offer one other perk. We have no stores. That means no small talk. Crazy weather we're having. No, it's not. It's just weather. It is an introvert's dream. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Dibrig tú go díon ó chánig tú go dtí an chathair seo, fuair his neart taithí agus d'arbar de chuid skillne. I ngácháte éigean tú, fecinn tú rud éige na chabhraigh tú a thógáil, ach aníis tá tú ag féchant ar an todhchaí, agus beidir go bhfuil tú ag smaoinemh ar an áit as a dagan tú. In éireann, tastaíonn pleanálathe, siúnéirí, ploméirí, díanadóirí, inaltóirí, altíirí, banistóirí láithreáin agus níos mó uainn. Tastaíonn tú uainn, le do chuid skillne agus taithí go léir chun cabhrúlinn na mílte tithe a thógáil. Tá an domhan tóga agat, a níos tar arás agus tógan teach a thóg tú. Tuile eolais ag gov.ie/Building Ireland. Teachtareacht ó rialtas na hÉireann.
You know what's faster than your paycheck? Literally everything. It's time to get your pay up to speed. With Earnin, you can access your pay as you work instead of waiting days and weeks for a paycheck. Get up to $150 a day with a max of $750 between paydays. No interest, no credit checks, and no mandatory fees. Because, hey, it's your money. Download the Earnin app now to get it and join millions of people making any day payday. That's EARNIN. Earnin is not a bank. Access limits are based on your earnings and risk factors. Available in select states. Expedited transfers available for a fee. Terms and restrictions apply. Visit earnin.com for full details.